Ties between the U.S. and China sinking to fresh lows amid rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait. In an unprecedented move, Beijing has decided to end cooperation with Washington on a number of crucial fronts. First on the chopping block, key climate talks with the United States, which Beijing says it will henceforth suspend. It has also nixed plans for top-level meetings between military leaders, while several other areas of cooperation are also set to be affected. That's everything from maritime security to transnational crime. But in a more targeted move, Beijing adds it will also impose unspecified sanctions on U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her family after her visit to Taiwan earlier this week. And CNN's Olivia Xiong joins us live from Beijing now. Olivia, Beijing announcing that slew of countermeasures set to cut the cord of cooperation with Washington on so many issues. What does this spell for U.S.-China ties?
Well, Wei Su, we had already, prior to this visit by Ms. Pelosi, talked about how China-U.S. ties were at an all-time low. But now it would seem that the outlook for this bilateral relationship is even gloomier. China announcing these series of countermeasures across various areas, essentially cutting numerous channels of communication and cooperation. One group of them has to do with defense. It's suspending dialogue between the two military leaders, working meetings between the defense ministries. Some experts telling me it's not surprising that defense ties are taking a hit. It's typical when there are diplomatic issues at play here. Even though these talks may be seen, these military talks are typically may be seen as symbolic, experts are also saying that it will certainly make it more difficult with these communication channels shut to prevent perhaps a future escalation in military tensions or even conflict in the future. Now, the other area that we're looking at is a cut in the cooperation areas, including in important areas like climate change or transnational crime and drug control. Already, there have been very few areas where China and the U.S. could agree on, where they have found common ground, but it now seems that this area is shrinking even further. Even when both sides had talked about managing cooperation and still being able, managing competition rather, and still being to cooperate at the same time. Now, China has said that it had to act because it feels like its bottom line has been crossed, and that it's because of Ms. Pelosi's insistence on visiting Taiwan, disregarding China's strong opposition, that it's had to act.
Olivia, China facing pressure not just from the U.S., but from several other countries as well over these military drills. What has been Beijing's reaction so far?
Well, China's foreign ministry has hit back at this criticism, the White House primarily saying that China had overreacted to Ms. Pelosi's trip, as we today saw the second out of 4 days of live-fire, large-scale military drills around Taiwan. The Chinese military's Eastern Theater Command saying that it had continued realistic combat-oriented joint drills in the sea and airspaces of Taiwan as planned. But China has maintained that its response is legitimate and necessary in response to U.S. provocation, saying that the U.S. was an unprovoked provocateur and the creator of the crisis. China also hitting back at the statement issued by G7 countries, summoning relevant diplomats of the European countries, as well as the Japanese ambassador. In particular, with Japan, China has been angered by comments made by Japanese leaders. This is what China's foreign ministry had to say.
日方对于美方侵犯中国主权的行径选择性的失明，却跳出来对维权者横加指责，公然提侵权者张目，完全是混淆是非、颠倒黑白。在台湾问题上，企图挑衅滋事，企图以此来迟滞中国的发展壮大，破坏中国的和平统一和崛起的进程呢？这可能是徒劳的。
That spokesman from China's foreign ministry, and Olivia Xiong speaking to us earlier from Beijing.
China's large-scale military exercises entered their second day, state media dubbing them Taiwan lockdown drills as rehearsals for reunification. Taiwan's military says 68 Chinese jets and 13 warships crossed the median line in the strait during the drills today. The exercises were concentrated in areas to the north, east and southwest of the island, with the Chinese military targeting 6 areas of alignment with its blockade around Taiwan. Now, Taipei suspects that a 7th area will be added. The Chinese drills are expected to continue until at least Sunday. Taiwan says Chinese Dongfeng ballistic missiles flew over the territory for the first time yesterday. At least 11 ballistic missiles were fired. China said that they hit targets off the eastern coast of Taiwan. The United States has summoned the Chinese ambassador to the United States in a move that is set to further inflame those tensions. It says that it summoned Ambassador Qin Gang to the White House to condemn China's provocative actions against Taiwan. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also chiming in, accusing China of worsening an already fraught situation.
These provocative actions are a significant escalation. We've seen how Beijing has attempted to change the status quo on Taiwan for some time. For example, more than doubling the number of aircraft flown over the center line that separates China and Taiwan over the past 2 years, pursuing economic coercion, political interference, and cyber attacks against Taiwan. Now, they've taken dangerous acts to a new level.
Mr. Blinken added that the U.S. will not be provoked by these drills. He made the remarks on the sidelines of an ASEAN meeting that's being held in Cambodia, where he doubled down on the U.S.'s commitment towards a free and open Indo-Pacific and assured the country will continue its air and maritime transits through the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's premier, meanwhile, described China as the evil neighbor, but appealed to its heart.
何必恶灵在我们的门口耀武扬威，而把国际最平缓的航道任意借由军演加以破坏，受到周边国家、全世界的谴责。我们呼吁中国把心力用来照顾人民，才是最重要。
And Taiwan has dispatched aircraft and ships and further deployed land-based missile systems to monitor the situation. CNA's Victoria Jen explores what is at stake should these drills continue beyond this weekend.
Taiwan is stepping up its own military defense capability as China is carrying out its largest military drills to date around the island, leading to blockade of several air and sea routes. The move is raising international concerns that any potential mishap could spiral the cross-strait tensions out of control. In response, Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen has condemned China's move as a clear violation of the status quo across the strait.
这不但破坏了台海的现状，侵犯了我们的主权，更造成印太区域的高度紧张，而海空运输的安全。 国际贸易的正常运作都受到空前的威胁，我们严正要求中国理性自治。
Aviation authorities say that at least 900 flights would be affected as a result of rerouting due to the 4-day drills. It's a double whammy for Taiwan's fishery industry. Besides the import ban of fish imposed by China, local fishermen had to suspend their operation temporarily due to the live firing drills at sea.
我们本来还有10天的作业时间，可是今年他这次公布要实弹射击，我们害怕，我们就开进来了。
一天的渔获，像现在我们大概昨天的抛网来讲，我们一天大概都是1000多万嘛。这5天下来，将近我们损失了渔获量的部分呢，将近快1亿的部分。
A disruption in the sea and air transport is also affecting Taiwan's energy supply, like gasoline and natural gas, which depends heavily on imports. It's raising concerns that supply may not be sufficient due to the exercises, but Taiwan's economic authorities try to offer assurances to the public.
相关的燃料的存量的问题哦，在这个主要的部分，第一个目前的燃煤的部分呢有39天的存量，石油的部分有146天的存量。 天然气有10到11天的存量，那这个部分呢，这3个部分都高于现在法定要求的存量。
But analysts warn that such disruption would not only affect energy supply, but also hurt Taiwan's economy if China chooses to further extend its drills.
Taiwan is an export-oriented economy, so continued embargo or quarantine will likely lead to not only significant economic negative impact on Taiwan, but also a disruption to global supply chains, especially in leading sectors such as semiconductor production, of which Taiwan provides a very huge share of the global market.
In spite of China's military intimidation, analysts urge Taiwan not to raise its combat level, as it could provide Beijing with the excuse to further escalate its military activities. Victoria Jen, CNA, Taipei.
China's drills in the Taiwan Strait have attracted tourists to a coastal town, hoping to catch a glimpse of the action. People gathered on the beaches of Pinkan Island, China's closest point to Taiwan, to see fighter jets heading towards the exercise area and ships sailing in nearby waters. The drills in 6 zones around Taiwan are expected to last until noon on Sunday.
大家一开始都是还是挺情绪比较激动嘛，就是说让他能访台，但是后面我们毕竟跨越了所谓的台海中线，然后有这些军演，然后昨天导弹还飞越台湾了，我就觉得祖国很强大，然后给大家也是树立了信心，觉得台湾回归就是肯定是势在必行的。